Mortal Kombat 1 will be the game when Kung Jin finally returns, and I'm here with the proof. Just like Noob Saibot and Jade, the developers at NetherRealm Studios have left the evidence right in front of our faces. I found 3 big hints that Kung Jin will return, but will he be a full character or a cameo fighter? All that and more discussed in today's video, because another day means more Mortal Kombat 1 news. I'm covering it all the time on this channel, so if you want to stay up to date, then make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss any future videos. And then after watching, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below. It helps my channel out a ton. And without any further ado, let's begin. Starting off with the first big hint that most players did not even notice, because it happens in the first chapter of Story Mode. When confronted by Sub-Zero, Kung Lao grabs a mysterious weapon off the wall. And to most players at the time, myself included, this did not seem like a big deal at all. However, on the Combat Kings podcast, I recently learned this weapon is referred to as a chakram. And guess what? That's the exact same weapon that Kung Jin uses in Mortal Kombat X. Or in other words, the writers at NetherRealm Studios are teasing Kung Jin's return right in front of our face and almost nobody noticed. This weapon right here is our first big hint that Kung Jin will return in Mortal Kombat 1. Because keep in mind, NetherRealm could have chose any weapon to be Kung Lao's inspiration, or Kung Lao could have had the idea all on his own, or he could have inherited the hat from a different Shaolin warrior. But the writers chose for Kung Lao's hat to be inspired by Kung Jin's weapon of choice. And rest assured, that is not a coincidence. In fact, that could literally be Kung Jin's weapon, and he just left it there at the tea house by mistake. But here's what I find the most interesting about this revelation. In the previous timelines, it was actually Kung Jin that got inspired by Kung Lao. His chakram was inspired by Kung Lao's hat, and that's why the rim of the blade glows blue and why it comes back on command with the use of magic. You get the idea. In the previous timeline, Kung Jin was inspired by Kung Lao, but in this new timeline, it's reversed. Kung Lao's weapon was inspired by Kung Jin's weapon, and I just find that detail to be really cool. I know Mortal Kombat 1 doesn't have perfect writing, but tiny details like this are really cool to me. Now with all that being said, I'm wondering if Kung Jin will still use his chakram in Mortal Kombat 1 when he does finally become a DLC character. I personally think that would be really cool and would also make the most sense, but at the same time, Kung Jin could play very differently and have a brand new weapon alongside his bow staff. And as you all know, I love making these videos interactive, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How do you think Kung Jin is going to play in Mortal Kombat 1? Like I keep saying in all my videos, I truly do read each and every comment, so grab that keyboard and make your voices heard. Because next up we have hint number 2, the intro dialogue between Kenshi and Kung Lao.
My cousin Kung Jin is fascinated by the Yakuza.
Do whatever it takes to quash that interest.
Believe it or not, most characters discussed in the intro dialogues have been confirmed as DLC already, which is already great news for Kung Jin. However, unlike Jade, who has about 4 different intros talking about her, Kung Jin only has this one intro dialogue. But even so, his chances for DLC are looking pretty good. And real quick, I want you to listen to this intro one more time.
My cousin Kung Jin is fascinated by the Yakuza.
Do whatever it takes to quash that interest.
Kung Jin being fascinated by the Yakuza is so interesting to me because keep in mind he's a monk and they're definitely not supposed to like criminals or criminal behavior. In fact, it's very likely that the Shaolin elders would forbid being interested in the Yakuza or studying about them, any of that stuff. Which means this intro dialogue could imply that Jin is a rebel at the least and a possible villain in the making at the worst, which I think is awesome because it would make him a great contrast to Kung Lao. And part of me does hope that Kung Jin is darker in this new timeline. Maybe not a villain, but at least a more violent and aggressive version of Kung Lao. I mean, look at his bow staff for Pete's sake. It can breathe fire on the opponent, so yeah, whoever wields that thing would be a pretty sadistic person. Don't get me wrong, Kung Lao's hat is pretty malicious too, a very violent weapon to be sure, but it's way better than being burned alive. Alright, but now finally it's time for our last big hint, which happens at the end of Story Mode. So a quick spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't finished the game yet, but come on, you had like 5 months by now to complete the game. Regardless of who you pick in the final chapter, you get confronted by the evil Kombat kids. But before you get the chance to fight them, Titan Katana kills them all off like it's nothing, which was a bit underwhelming, but here's a fun fact. There's actually extra footage in the game files of Mortal Kombat 1 showing the Kombat kids doing some really cool stuff before dying. Look at them go, killing off all these characters. However, sadly, this footage was cut from the main game for one reason or another. Maybe the developers just didn't have time to finish it, or maybe a director editor or somebody like that decided to cut the footage because it was not deemed necessary. Real quick, if I'm being honest with you, I'm bummed this footage got cut from the main game because I think it shows what a threat the Kombat Kids are. I mean, just look at them clear through all of these heroes. It shows what a functional team they are. Even if they're fighting for the bad guys, they're pretty tough. So that's already really cool, but at the same time, it shows how powerful Titan Katana is because she takes them all out by herself like it's not even a big deal. These same Kombat Kids, who we see kill off at least 10 people, get wiped out in seconds by Titan Katana. That shows you how tough she is. So yeah, I don't think this scene should have been cut, and if I find out who got rid of it, I'm going to give them a stern talking to, but I digress. As you can see, all the Kombat Kids are here, including Kung Jin, which might not seem like a big deal at first, but you have to consider this. Takeda has already been revealed as DLC in Kombat Pack 1, plus Cassie Cage's gear items have been found in the data files of Mortal Kombat 1. Or in other words, both of these Kombat Kids are already confirmed to be DLC, which already means that Kung Jin has a very good chance of returning as a DLC character too. But then on top of that, look at his redesign. Kung Jin looks very different to how he did in Mortal Kombat X. And whenever a fighting game character gets a redesign, that's a big hint they're going to return as a playable character. For example, just have a quick look at Mortal Kombat X. In the crypt, you could stumble across a Reptile, but unfortunately, he looked the exact same as his Mortal Kombat X counterpart, and as a result, we knew he would never be a full DLC character. However, on the flip side, check out Ermac, who got a completely new redesign and a brand new costume. Due to Mortal Kombat 11's DLC being cancelled, we never got to play as Ermac, but it was definitely planned to be the case. So once again, Kung Jin having a brand new look is a good piece of evidence that he will be a DLC character. However, the same can't be said for Jackie, because unfortunately, she is identical to how she looks in Mortal Kombat 11, they just changed the color on her armor. And then on top of that, Jackie Briggs is also the least popular Kombat Kid, so once again, her chances of returning are not very high, but fingers crossed if you're a Jackie fan, don't lose hope. So there you have it everyone, my 3 pieces of evidence that Kung Jin will return as a DLC character in Mortal Kombat 1. But now comes the million-dollar question, will Kung Jin be a fully playable character, or will he be a cameo fighter? One last time, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I think it could go either way, but if I was a gambling man, I sadly do think it's more likely that Kung Jin will be a cameo fighter as opposed to a fully playable character, and the simple reason why is Kung Jin is not a very popular character. Sure, there are some players that do want to see him return, but sadly there might not be enough of those fans to warrant him being a fully playable character. You gotta keep in mind that NetherRealm can only make so many characters for one game, right? And sadly, Kung Jin might not be popular enough to make the cut as a full character, and therefore he might have to be relegated to a cameo fighter. But only time will tell, and one thing is certain, Kung Jin is going to return to Mortal Kombat 1 as a DLC character. And if you don't believe me or think that I'm a liar, then I await your apology when Kung Jin does finally return in Mortal Kombat 1. I'm that certain. Thanks for watching everyone, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like down below, it helps the channel out a ton, and then finish that combo by subscribing and ringing that bell so you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.